Get ready, get set, and hold on. It's going to be one hell of a ride. Good morning, and welcome to the Matuszak Show for this Tuesday, August 5th, 2014. I'm your host, Paul-Gregory Matuszak, and the second day of the work week. Welcome to it. Hope everything went well yesterday. Started off a productive week for you. And with that, let's start looking at some of the things going on around us today. I wonder, what do we have on the schedule today? What can we look at? What kind of news is coming out of Washington, especially with the Congress in recess, or supposed to be in recess?
You don't have a right to know everything in a separation of powers government, my friend. That is the difference between a parliamentary government and a separation of powers government.
Well, Miss Norton, again, you are incorrect. We have every right to know what our legislature is up to and what our executive branch is up to within a certain limits with that one. Certain military operations, I'm sure we don't need to know all the specifics of, because if the general public knows, of course, then that means somebody is going to blab to the bad guys, and that's going to jeopardize our military and our fine people out there defending the nation. But with that small exception, by and large, yes, we do have a right to know what's going on with our government, what they're deciding. Because who do they work for? In our form of government, our representative republic, they work for us, we the people. So we are their employers. We have a right to know what our employees are doing as far as what their job entails in making decisions that directly affect our lives. With that in mind, Miss Eleanor Norton, maybe you need a new employer. But what's going on? Well, there are some rumors floating around out there that today the Senate is going to meet for a special little session to vote on a few bills here and there. So we'll check later on today and see if that actually came to fruition and what's been voted on and decided on. But as we reported late last week and then again yesterday, there's a whole huge stack of bills over there that have been passed by the House that deal with a lot of the issues of the day that the Senate doesn't even have it on its agenda yet. And the Senate versions of those bills even got defeated in the Senate, despite the fact that they were sponsored by the majority. And still, when they came up to a vote, couldn't pass certain procedural votes or even get to a proper floor vote. And of course, I'm referring up front to the border bill, the $3.8 billion mostly deficit spending border bill that couldn't get past the Senate. However, on the flip side, both houses in Congress did vote in favor of the VA reform bill, which was a $17 billion, again with a B, billion-dollar bill, throw money at the problem and hope it goes away type bill, of which $12 billion is deficit spending, meaning the government has to borrow the money. They don't have it to allocate, but they're allocating it anyway. Not smart. It's kind of like doing certain things for your household. But then, again, this is a crisis dealing with our veterans. Now, had they done the right thing in the first place, a lot of this would not be necessary. I mean, they wasted money on things over the years. Just since Obama took office and when he put Shinseki in, there were many things that they wasted money on that they shouldn't have. I mean, conferences where they're sending VA workers to learn how to dance so that they're not embarrassed when they go to another conference and have to dance at it. Come on. That shouldn't be anywhere near the budget. If they're going to pay for that stuff, they should do it on their own time, on their own dime, on their vacation time, using their own money, not using taxpayer funding to do it. And it shouldn't be some kind of union-protected continuing education professional development stuff, because it wasn't. How is learning how to dance professional development for somebody who's a file clerk in a VA office? It's not. Sorry. Nice try. And that is just one of the many scandals that have hit over the past 6 years within the VA. So it's not just the electronic waiting list people. That was just the straw that finally broke the camel's back and got people outraged enough to say, hey, we've had enough, clean this up. But yeah, so that's one of the things that actually made it through both houses. Now, go and take a look, and I've written some things over at BuzzPo, as well as a few other people have written on the subject. Go over to BuzzPo and take a look, and look through our archives over the past week or so alone, talking about the bills that have, on Friday, on a special session in the House, got passed. There are two immigration bills. One closes the loopholes over there for the DACA, the Deferred Action for Child Arrivals program. It's an executive level program that where the executive branch, through regulation and policy changes, tried to legislate without going through the legislature, using a loophole in an older law. One that was originally passed under Clinton and then was renewed under George Bush. But the H.R. 5272 closes that loophole and basically says, no more. Now, will that do? What does that do for the illegal alien children who are here now? That's a good question. And that kind of gets dealt with Marsha Blackburn's bill, which was H.R. 5230. H.R. 5230, the original version of it, did not pass. It had to go back and was modified, and they added $35 million with an M, more dollars into it, and it's a much less expensive bill than the one that was proposed in the Senate of $3.8 billion. But the bill that passed the House is $694 million. Majority of it, about 70% of it or so, is paid for through what are called rescissions. And I've discussed this yesterday. The rescission, what they did was they looked at other areas where in the government where they had allocated funds that haven't been used yet and have no direct use delineated for yet. Nobody sat back and said, yes, this money is spent on this, or will be spent on this during the month of September or August. So since the money was allocated but not spent, the Congress turned around and kind of took it back and said, you didn't use it? Well, we need it. And so we're going to take it from you, and since you're not using it anyway, and use it where it needs to be used. That's kind of like if you're sitting at your home and doing kitchen table economics, as they call it, and you have $100 allocated for your entertainment fund for the month, and that's to pay for your Netflix. You're going to the movies, you're going out to eat or whatever, and for whatever one reason or another, maybe there's a lot of work to be done and you just don't get the time during that month to go out and go out to eat, or you decide that there's too many good things on Netflix, so you're not going to go out to the movies and spend the movie there, or whatever the case might be. But your water bill or your electric bill is a little bit more than normal. You're going to take from that entertainment fund and say, we didn't use that for this month, so we're not just going to pile it up and add it on to next month's. We're going to take that money that we didn't spend on the entertainment, and since we have to pay our utility bills, that's what we're going to use the money for. That's kind of what Congress did there, which makes a lot of sense. I mean, that's pure common sense. That's That's knowing how to do some good accounting and some good budgeting. So, of course, the executive branch has already said that they're going to veto the bill if it passes, because it makes sense. Of course. So, that's kind of some of the stuff that came out of our legislature. So we'll take a look later today and see if anything does happen to come out of the Senate special session that they're discussing having for today with a couple of votes, even though they are technically in recess. In the meantime, though, we have to look at what's going on in other branches. So let's discuss things that may or may not be happening in the executive branch, since the executive branch is supposed to be working, although rumors have it that the Obama family is planning another multi-million-dollar vacation that we all, of course, have to pay for. But let's look into the cabinet. Let's look at the Department of Justice. And who heads the Department of Justice? The U.S. Attorney General. And who is the U.S. Attorney General? That is Mr. Eric Holder. Eric Holder. I'm sure that name brings some shivers down plenty of people's spines already. I mean, he has been involved in so much. Fast and Furious that resulted in the death of Brian Terry and countless other people because he told ATF to go and buy American weapons and smuggle them and give them to the drug cartels for whatever reason. It wasn't a very well laid out plan, so it evidently was not being done for any actual law enforcement or border security reason. It was just done. Well, that was one thing. And then, of course, Eric Holder's kind of been supporting some of the stuff going on within the whole IRS targeting scandal and kind of refusing to cooperate from the Department of Justice standpoint. And then refusing to prosecute voter intimidation, because his buddies with the new Black Panthers group were the ones instigating it. So he refused to do any prosecutions. But, had it been a Tea Party group doing those kind of tactics, I'm sure that they would have been paraded in front of judges. So, we have Eric Holder talking with one of the so-called premier political analytical news sources. They kind of tend to lean a little bit left, but they're by and large try to be, or at least try to put the appearance of being somewhat objective. Somewhat. They fail at times, but they try. But The Hill did an interview with Eric Holder and alleged that he, within the article, that Eric Holder was very happy to admit that he violates his oath of office on a regular basis. Happy and proud that he violates his oath of office. Think about that. And then, allegedly, Eric Holder thinks that everybody who holds a public office should do that once in a while. When asked if allegations of him being more of an activist and less of a public servant were true, Holder and kind of sort of agreed that he is an activist and is kind of proud of that, more proud of that than being a public servant upholding the laws of our nation and upholding the Constitution. In fact, Eric Holder's exact words are, "If you want to call me an activist, Attorney General, I will proudly accept that label. Any Attorney General who is not an activist is not doing his job. The responsibility of the Attorney General is to change things and bring us closer to the ideals expressed in our founding documents." All right, let's hold on here a second, Eric. How is trying to tear down the Constitution and ignore the Constitution in any way, shape, or form bringing us closer to their ideals? I think that's quite the exact opposite, buddy. But when he was flat out asked if he was he operates as a so-called civil rights activist while he's being the Attorney General. Holder said, "I agree with you 1,000% that I am, and I'm proud of it." And then we're discussing the Supreme Court. For the Supreme Court's criticism of the Attorney General, Holder then stated, "The way to stop discrimination on the basis of race is to stop discriminating on the basis of race." You know, I agree with that. And the way to stop for me, the way to stop discriminating on the basis of race is to stop making it an issue. Stop forcing people to have to declare their race on census forms. Stop tracking people based on their skin color or national origin when doing statistics. It should not matter, as a general rule. I mean, if you're tracking people coming from the Middle East who have ties to terrorist organizations, or coming from anywhere and they have direct ties to terrorist organizations, that's one thing. But when you're tracking who's doing home invasions in the middle of Snow White, Iowa, well, you know, skin color doesn't matter. What matters is maybe the age, maybe the education background. But skin color doesn't matter. What matters is they're criminals. A criminal is a criminal, regardless of skin color. A upstanding, productive citizen, an entrepreneur, someone who goes out and creates things, works their butt off, and makes things happen, and improves his own or her own family situation, their economic situation, learns things and grows, and then creates jobs by creating a business and having to employ additional people. Skin color has nothing to do with that. Gender has nothing to do with that. So I agree with Holder on that one. Is the way to stop discrimination is to stop discriminating. Well, how do you stop discriminating? You stop making it an issue. You stop making it a topic. You stop making it something that has to be tracked and judged and reported. Because every time you make that an issue that has to be tracked, judged, or reported, you're making it something that's in everybody's mind. Something you're creating an issue where maybe it really wouldn't be these days. Drawing too much attention to it. But there's even more about what the Attorney General has said over at this article on BuzzPo, and this article was written by Steve Ale, who does a lot of good work over at BuzzPo. He's well worth reading. Almost every single article he posts over there is definitely worth paying some attention to. Whether it's a strict news article or whether it's more of one of his commentary pieces, does great work, makes you think. And it's that making you think part that's important. It doesn't matter whether you agree with him. What matters is that you look at the facts he has and then you form your own opinion. You can debate him all day long, as long as you remember that what he presents as facts are facts. You can bring your own to the table. That's how we debate. But one other thing out of this article, though, is Holder. Well, Steve Ale lists on here a lot of the parts of the job description of the Attorney General, and he challenges Holder to try to justify a lot of his comments and his attitudes based on his job description. And maybe that's I shouldn't say maybe. That's definitely something to look at. That's definitely the perspective you need to take. Is, are you fulfilling the requirements of your office based on your job description, what you were hired for? So go and take a good look at that article over at BuzzPo. Definitely will make you think. And then other things going on regarding